with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Chris White, and Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Shrey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any questions for our guests. A quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine from Professor Katerina Shrey.
Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким поклоном. Нині є Страсна п'ятниця по новим календарам, і ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі.
Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Katerina Shrey. Thank you.
I am so pleased and grateful to introduce today's guest. Dr. Iryna Ivankovich is the president of the St. Sophia Religious Association of Ukrainian Catholics, director of the Josyf Slipyj Research Center, and founder of the ESL Ukraine Charitable platform. A native of Ukraine, she was born in the Ternopil region, earned her BA in English as a second language at Czestochowa Institute of Foreign Languages and Economics in Poland in 1996, an MA in Applied Linguistics at the University of Warsaw in 1999, and a Doctorate summa cum laude from the Ukrainian Free University in Munich in 2012. Dr. Ivankovich wrote her dissertation on the sociolinguistic Polish-American influences on the language of the Ukrainian diaspora in the USA. Her list of publications and presentations goes on for pages, and she is one of the world's leading experts on the life and works of Josyf Slipyj, Patriarch of the Ukrainian Catholic Church. In fact, one of her most recent projects is this beautiful volume of Josyf Slipyj's Testament, presented here in 9 languages and co-edited with Leonid Rudnitsky, a friend of our program. Dr. Ivankovich is featured in news outlets in the Philadelphia area. And I'm going to share one of those items really quickly on our screen. She is a frequent source for media in the Philadelphia area where she currently resides. And see on the screen, you see one of the interviews that took place after Russia invaded Ukraine. Beyond all that, she is an amazing human being who lives her life in the service of others. And when Russia attacked Ukraine last February, Dr. Ivankovich immediately mobilized her organization to collect and send much needed humanitarian aid tactical and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And I'm going to share really quickly one of the letters that she has from the Ternopil City Council that listed specific supplies that the City Council needed. And then with lightning speed, Dr. Ivankovich and her organization responded. And you'll hear a little bit about that in her presentation. She'll share that as part of her story. Dr. Ivankovich, welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Rudnitsky. I was listening and I was wondering, do I know that person? Thank you very much for an extensive presentation and for the invitation for that matter, because speaking about the war in my situation is speaking about also my mother, who is in Ukraine and who refused to leave the country, albeit we tried many times to encourage her to leave. So it's very personal for me as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity and for being with you today. Just a little introduction why this is also this war is a personal matter for me. I grew up in a bilingual Russian-Ukrainian family. My father hailed from Lithuanian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian families, but in his heart, he was always a hardcore Russian. Born in Siberia, where my ancestors were sent for being the enemies of the Soviet regime, he was brainwashed by Russian propaganda, just as the entire population of Russia is being brainwashed today. Having served the term, my grandparents moved back to Donbass, and my father grew up in an entirely Russian-speaking community, one of people who washed off their national identities. My mother comes from a family of Ukrainians, Poles, and Austrians residing in Galicia, Western Ukraine. In her heart and soul, she has always been a Ukrainian, and so have I. Having moved to the United States in 2006, I have been blessed to remain within the Ukrainian community through a meeting with Professor Leo Rudnetsky, who introduced me to St. Sophia Religious Association of Ukrainian Catholics, located in the outskirts of Philadelphia. And from this point on, I'm going to share with you my PowerPoint presentation because it's more important for me so that you could see the work than myself. So bear with me while I'm switching to the proper item on my computer. Okay, can you see the screen?
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right, so from now on, this is going to be my presentation. So St. Sophia Religious Association was established back in 1974 by Confessor of Faith Cardinal Josyf Slipyj, and you can see his picture in the upper left corner. He spent 18 years in Siberian camps, and this institution has been sharing its life between the United States and Ukraine, where its representation remains strong and active amidst the war turmoil. For our association, the war began way before February 2022. We go back to the year 2014, annexation of Crimea and occupation of Donbass. With a number of refugees soaring back then and children being deprived of normality of life, in 2015, St. Sophia launched ESL Charitable Summer Schools for orphans and refugees, displaced persons from Crimea and Donbass. And they were held in the village of Zazdrist, Ternopil region, the birthplace of Cardinal Josyf Slipyj. These 3 week educational endeavors were not merely language camps. So here you see 32 teenagers from different parts of Eastern and Southern Ukraine. This is the beginning, the official opening of 2019 summer school. And the picture also features the head of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, Patriarch Sviatoslav Shevchuk. Each year we build a family, a long-lasting bond. Many of our graduates are now serving in the Ukraine armed forces, defending Ukraine from the enemy. And just give you an idea what it was like for them to experience those 3 weeks in Zazdrist. They created a flyer with their thoughts and their reminiscence about those three weeks. So I'm just going to read random quotes. I love ESL for the sincere people that surround you there. They are always ready to support and help no matter what. I love ESL for the unforgettable lessons with the best teachers. I love ESL for being my second home. Iryna, high school student. And one of our naval cadets wrote, the atmosphere in this school is unbelievable. I got a second family here. I had such an opportunity. If I had such an opportunity, I would definitely come back. Vyacheslav, naval cadet. In 2014-2019, we organized the ESL courses for the officers and military chaplains, as well as the students of Odessa Naval Lyceum. So here you see a group of 32 naval cadets joining us for a week of ESL training before their SATs. And we had that event held in Zazdrist. Since the first days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine on February 24th, 2022, St. Sophia has been providing humanitarian, tactical, medical, and intellectual assistance to the armed forces of Ukraine, self-defense units, religious, charitable, and public organizations and foundations in all of Ukraine, structures of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic and Orthodox churches, state institutions of Ukraine, and forcibly displaced persons in the USA. So here you see one of our younger volunteers helping us pack the boxes that eventually were shipped through Poland to Ukraine. With Professor Katerina Shrey's support, who shared St. Sophia appeal for assistance, our association has been able to provide drones for Bakhmut and Azov units in the Donetsk front, generators, and they were sending us requests for specific models. So here we have EcoFlow generator, night vision devices, protective vests, tactical footwear, military backpacks, tactical first aid kits, medicines, tourniquets, sleeping bags, thermal underwear and blankets, hygiene products, wheelchairs, children food, clothing, and you name it. The list can go on and on. So here you see pictures of our soldiers sending their thanks to us for equipping them with the necessities. For the safety reasons, their faces are obviously covered, and you see those first aid kits. They also had to be of specific model, and we tried our best to provide them with those ones. At that time, people of all ethnic backgrounds and religious denominations were bringing and sending their donations to St. Sophia headquarters. So basically, entire month of March and April, we were working without days off, packing those boxes, working logistics, because obviously we couldn't fly them to Ukraine. They had to be shipped to Poland and then delivered to various institutions in Poland where we got requests from. So those 2 months were very educating, because we learned about the specifics of helmets, vests, footwear. We became very knowledgeable in that. So here you see a military chaplain from Odessa, Father Ruslan Ostafiev, who delivers this humanitarian aid to self-defense units in Odessa. And you also see our 4 defenders equipped with helmets that St. Sophia purchased for them. Another interesting fact that some of our donors would like to remain anonymous. One person has been supporting our activities throughout years, but she always said, please don't tell anyone, I want to be anonymous. But this time she donated money to purchase 2 drones, and you see them on the right picture. And she says, if I may, could you please ask them to put my name on those drones so that Russians know who killed them? Jokingly, obviously. So our soldiers put her name, Marta, and that's how she was commemorated, a wonderful woman. So we, as I said, we meet people of all kinds of backgrounds, and she definitely is one of those memorable donors. In addition, our association sent monetary donations toward the purchase of 3 SUVs for the armed forces. This is a little story behind the SUV that we purchased. So it was blessed. You see our soldiers who enjoyed riding it only for a week, because that's what happened after they were shot. This vehicle obviously was ruined, and this is just one of many stories, tragic stories that happened to our troops. Luckily, nobody was killed, but this is the proof of what our defenders are going through on a daily basis. We purchased EcoFlow Delta Max generators, food for the parishioners of various churches of Odessa, Exarchate, of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church. And here you see parishioners from Bereslav. Their priest, their pastor organized a charitable kitchen that feeds roughly 150 people who weren't able to escape. And they provide lunches on a daily basis. So our association sponsored for people who remained in Bereslav. So you see how the church was converted into a luncheon hall. We also sent supplies for children. Here you see children from Zaporizhia. They also remained under the occupation, and eventually they were liberated. So we sponsored sweet treats for them right before Christmas. You see their smiling faces as they enjoy those gifts that were sent to them. On March 11th, 2024, Old York Road Temple Beth Am in Abington, Pennsylvania, hold a special prayer vigil for peace in Ukraine. And I was honored to be a guest speaker that night. It was a deeply touching event, as many of the members of the congregation or their ancestors hailed from Ukraine. I spoke about the atrocities of the Russian war, brutality of the Russian invaders, and consolidation of the Ukrainian society. It was a wonderful opportunity to pray together and receive a welcoming response from the congregation, who then generously supported St. Sophia Humanitarian Aid. To raise funds, St. Sophia Association has organized numerous fundraising events. To name a few are flea markets, craft shows. So here you see one of our most recent events. That was a craft show, and we had people coming over, and the proceeds of this event went to support Ukrainian troops. We also organized charity workshops, which eventually became a very regular initiative of St. Sophia. So far, we have had 10 such events. This is our first endeavor, Ukrainian Ragdoll Workshop. And again, the proceeds that we collected were donated towards, as far as I remember, to the purchase of the SUV. And other events that we had, our other workshops are very interesting, because we had the art of food bouquets, two cake no bakes workshops, Christmas decor, encoded embroidery workshop, the beauty of the brooch, and many others. All proceeds were donated to the Ukraine Armed Forces, as I mentioned before. St. Sophia sponsored displaced children participating in the Christian summer camp Vacation with God, Holy Family, which was held on June 27th through July 1st, 2022, in cooperation with the Sisters of St. Basil the Great in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. And this year we are continuing this initiative. We are having a one-week camp last week of June, and we have 30 children participating in this camp. To assist the displaced persons in learning English, St. Sophia held online charitable English language courses for refugees in Philadelphia and the surrounding area. The first course took place on May 15th through June 18th, 2018. So these were people from eastern and southern part of Ukraine who immigrated after annexation of Crimea and Donbass. And because this initiative turned out to be a very needed and successful one, we were joined by Manor College and the Ukrainian Educational and Cultural Center in the fall of 2022. So 3 organizations are collaborating in providing English classes to hundreds of refugees that have arrived to Philadelphia. So on September the 23rd through November 30th, more than 130 displaced persons benefited from the 30-hour multi-level ESL course. And because, again, this initiative turned out to be very useful, we continued it, and over 140 students were enrolled in the spring semester classes. We offer both online and offline options for 5 levels, anywhere from beginners to upper intermediate and advanced. And round 3 is to start on April 24th, and we have over 250 people enrolled thus far. To keep the community updated about the impact of the war on social processes in the Ukrainian society, Dr. Mykola Repchuk, a renowned Ukrainian writer and publicist, who delivered a paper rallying around the flag, social changes in Ukraine during the war. What is permanent and what is temporary. A very successful lecture. We had about 50 people attending that evening. To integrate the displaced teens in the life of their peers, St. Sophia launched Christian Camp Counselors Ecumenical Workshops. Young people are being prepared to work with displaced children in summer camps. As you see, we have a nice group of teens who will be serving in one of our camps, as the previously mentioned, last week of June. Some 30, my bad, I'm sorry. Next picture. On July 10th through 21st, our association is holding the ESL Charitable Summer Program for high school refugees. So we are basically transferring our initiative from Ukraine, where we are currently unable to hold our regular programs, to Philadelphia. And some 30 teens will benefit from an all-day, 2-week educational endeavor, which will not only help them master their English skills, but will also serve as an opportunity to enjoy peaceful and friendly atmosphere. These are, Dr. Katerina Shrey showed you one of the documents that we received at the beginning of the war. These are just some of the documents, some of thank you letters, and also appeals that we have been receiving from various institutions and armed forces in Ukraine. And the file is quite large now in our files. So they specify what exactly they are asking for, where to send either funds or provisions, and we have been doing it. This is already our second year of assisting to as much as we can, obviously. So we are fighting the war, which, just like any other, has disrupted the peaceful existence of millions of Ukrainians. The war declared on us in an attempt to defeat the spirit of free Ukraine. The same Ukraine which fought hard to regain its independence in 1992 after the collapse of the Soviet Union, then to maintain it during the Orange Revolution of 2004 and the Revolution of Dignity of 2013-14. The same Ukraine that lost Crimea to Russian annexation in 2014 and several parts of Donbas region in the course of 2014 through 22. Yet, as our President Volodymyr Zelensky once said, Ukraine is alive and it's kicking. One of my friends fighting near Bakhmut repeats, and I quote, "We have no other choice but to win. And with God's help and people's support, we will." Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentation, but also for your outright heroic work. This behind the scenes support of what's going on in Ukraine is absolutely necessary, and I'm just so grateful for what you do and so proud to know you. A couple quick questions, if it's okay. You mentioned, thank you for sharing photos of students, young people who are refugees from the horrible war in Ukraine, the Philadelphia area. We're in an area where there are very few Ukrainians. We actually do have a Ukrainian refugee on campus, but her experience is very different from the experience of what a city like Philadelphia is able to provide. So my question is this, other than St. Sophia, the Ukrainian Educational and Cultural Center, and Manor College, are there other structures in place to help Ukrainian refugees fleeing the war and coming to the Philadelphia area?
Yes, absolutely. United Ukrainian American Relief Committee is one of the most active associations and organizations that have been assisting refugees all the way from the Second World War, and they are continuing their wonderful job. They are very active in assisting refugees both in Philadelphia and sending humanitarian aid to Ukraine. The surprising fact, or maybe not so surprising, the war gave birth to many non-charitable, fresh, newly established charitable institutions. And Philadelphia is no exception. We have such newly created institutions as Life for Ukraine, Charity for Ukraine, American United Relief Association, as if I'm correct. So they are also actively involved in helping both displaced people here and sending humanitarian aid to Ukraine. And also Ukrainian Women's League has been very vocal and very active in taking care of people's needs, both here in the States and in Ukraine. And I might be forgetting more, but these are institutions that we collaborate with, that we organize different initiatives together. So they came to my mind right off.
So what is life like? What I want to say, what is life like for refugees? Because I can't imagine such a broad question. But what are you hearing from people who arrive newly from Ukraine? Like how I can only imagine the trauma they've been through, but how are they feeling? Are they optimistic for what's going to happen? Are they like, how are they doing?
At St. Sophia, we have a family of refugees residing. And this is, I think it's a story of hundreds of people that fled from the war. They were all separated. It's a family of husband, wife, and two teenage sons. So the oldest one emigrated to Italy because he was turning 18, and his father obviously was afraid that he would be conscripted. So he went to Italy. His mother and his younger brother remained in Ukraine, and because of that constant pressure, and also Ternopil being under air raid attacks, or I forgot how to properly word it, the younger kid developed PTS, post-traumatic syndrome. He couldn't sleep. So his mother takes him, and they move to Italy following their oldest son. In the meantime, their oldest son immigrates to the States because he had an uncle and his relatives living here. So they're all separated. Father remaining in Ukraine, a mother and his younger brother in Italy. He is here. So when his mother and his younger brother arrived, his brother wasn't able to sleep for like a long period of time because of what they went through, and they didn't even want to talk about it. So it took them probably about 3 weeks to open up. And what the woman was describing, she says, although we weren't in those eastern outposts, those hot spots where people are bombed every single day, we felt it anyways. So she says, I can only imagine what people in Donetsk, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Makiyivka, Odessa, Zaporizhia, what they're going through, being constantly under this pressure, being bombed, being shelled every single day. So it's definitely, I'm seeing people living with this trauma for a very long time, and it will affect millions of Ukrainians, be it here, those who were fortunate to flee, and those who are living under that in those work conditions on an everyday basis. It's a nightmare. I think it's still a gentle word, but even talking to my mom, I always make sure that we are in touch every day. There were days when Western Ukraine also was shelled, and I couldn't be in touch with her for 3 days. It was probably, these were one of the worst days of my life, when you're not sure whether your mother is alive and what's going on. So yes, it's this is a tragedy that's we are going through.
We have the refugee that we have here in the Huntington area shared really just a sad story, but again, probably a very common one. She was simply walking home, and in our area, there are 3 places where you cross underneath a railroad bridge, and she was just crossing underneath a railroad bridge, and there, for whatever reason, as the train was going over the bridge, it was making these really loud noises. She absolutely broke down, curled up in the ball, and was just beside herself. Something that we who are blessed without knowing war don't even think about. So yeah, the PTSD, I can't imagine what it will take to recover. My heart goes out to all the folks in Ukraine suffering, and the mental health workers who are helping them. I would like to share a map, if possible, of Ukraine, so we can show people where Zastrys is with relation to Ternopil. So I'm going to share my screen, and if you can kind of sort of talk us through this. And while we're doing this, I invite the rest of our live listeners to prepare questions and comments. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and this is a map of Ukraine focusing on Zastrys, which right now doesn't really mean much out of context, but when we pan out, you'll see that we are, so Zastrys is right here, and we are still going to pan out a little bit more. And finally, here we see Lviv. So I think this is a good reference point for an American audience. Ternopil, I believe, should be someplace, am I right here?
To the right, yeah.
Oh, here, I'm sorry, it's right here.
Northeast, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then just to kind of give even a broader sense of what we're talking about geographically. So here we have the Polish, the border with Poland. Here we have the southern part of Ukraine, and then here we have Kiev. Just to give folks a sense of the areas we're talking about. Zastrys is the location of the birthplace of Patriarch Cardinal Josyf Slipyj, and also the museum in his honor. And I believe where you said the ESL school was taking place.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Does Philadelphia currently have the capacity to help the Ukrainian refugees that are coming? Is the city as a whole able to absorb the refugees at this point so far?
About probably 2 months ago, we were experiencing a crisis with renting, with housing. But I think that settled down. I don't think the city was prepared for the influx of the refugees, obviously, but I think it has stabilized since. And well, we are getting newcomers. My cousin moved to New York, not to Philadelphia, about 3 weeks ago, and 3 months ago. That was through United for Ukraine program. And he also signalized that there was, well, they experienced problems while looking for residence. But I think now that there are so many institutions helping refugees and serving their needs, it has stabilized. I think not that we have everything under control, but we are doing our best to address the needs of people.
I see a question, a hand raised by Dr. Leonard Deutsch. He is a former dean of Marshall University. Dr. Deutsch, please turn on your camera. We'd love to hear from you.
This, of course, is a tragedy. Fortunately, people around the world are responding by providing various materials, supplies, food, money. My question is there any coordination of what arrives in Ukraine or for Ukraine? How is this distributed? Should there be more centralized distribution? What's going on from that perspective?
Thank you for your question. Obviously, we weren't prepared. Ukraine wasn't prepared for the influx of humanitarian aid. So in March, our government issued a decree of centralized humanitarian aid, which meant that there were government institutions collecting humanitarian aid and then distributing it to where it was needed. But because the influx was so great, eventually the storages were filled, and people didn't manage to distribute it on a fast speed. So what we figured out was best was getting requests from institutions or let's say towns that were in need of such aid, and sending the provisions directly to them. And it worked out a lot better, a lot more efficient, and a lot faster. And that way we knew that our aid was going, say, to Zaporizhzhia, where it was sent. So we were working through our partners in Poland and in Ukraine, they would say, we would send to Poland. Our partners from Ukraine would come to Poland with a semi, pick up what was sent, take it to Lviv, and then people from those little cities and towns would come pick it up directly from Lviv and take it to where the need was going. Because in March and in April, the company Mist, which is a logistic partner shipping the provisions to Ukraine, had to halt their shipments because ships were not unloaded. they were receiving so many packages and so many boxes that they couldn't simply operate. So we thought, well, it's better to send less, but to make sure that people get our assistance. And now I think through those institutions like ours, those nonprofits, it's a lot smoother and a lot more efficient than sending it in a bulk to the centralized storage and waiting for the provisions to be distributed.
Yeah, I have on the screen, just as an example, this is a, I hope I do, it's a Ternopilska Miśka Rada. I hope that's on the screen. Is it on the screen? Can y'all see it? Yeah, so this is an example of very specific items requested that your organization was able to then provide and send to people who were ready to get it to where it needed to go. That's an excellent question. We've been wondering about that too. The infrastructure in Ukraine, how does that work once aid comes? People are sending it. So thank you for that elaboration. Are there any other questions from anyone on the panel or anybody in our audience? And if you're thinking, while you're thinking of that, I do have one more question. We have an organization here in town called Sunflower Seeds, which is organized specifically to support refugees in the city of Yaroslav, Poland. I know you're familiar with Poland, having studied there. Do you have any advice for organizations in cities without large Ukrainian populations, such as Huntington, who want to help? What advice do you have for whether it's something specific as the Sunflower Seeds organization who are supporting refugees, or other small towns who want to help Ukraine?
Thank you. I would probably say that partnership with other institutions would be advised, because even speaking from our perspective, if you have someone else partner teamed up with, the success rate grows, and because the need is great in Ukraine now, maybe less so in material aid, more in financial, because they have already established their network of purchasing items that they need. It is important to look for someone who can, through their contacts, support you, because, well, it's a teamwork, obviously. So if there is an institution that Sunflower Seeds for Ukraine can find and merge their efforts, I think it would be tremendous for helping people, no matter where they are, be it refugees or being people in Ukraine. They can team up with St. Sophia. They can team up with United Ukrainian American Relief Committee. So it's a matter of finding a partner that you can work with through the logistics and simply reaching the wider audience.
That's very helpful. In fact, I put the contact information for the St. Sophia Association in the chat, and we will have it also next to our link on our YouTube channel. I'm going to pause here for a second, see if there's anyone else who wants to chime in. If not, then I'm wondering if there's anything that you would like to say. We do have, to the people of Ukraine, we do have a pretty good, steady audience in Ukraine. And if you would like to say a few words in Ukrainian, either to your contacts back home or to encourage the general population, whatever makes sense to you, we would be grateful if you would like to do that.
Absolutely. Дорогі українці, які, як і моя мама, вирішили залишитися в Україні. З наближенням світлого торжества Воскресіння Христового від імені членів релігійного товариства українців-католиків Свята Софія у Сполучених Штатах хочу побажати усім нам перемоги світла над темрявою. Наш засновник, слуга Божий, сповідник віри патріарх Йосиф Сліпий, який 18 років свого життя пробув у сибірських таборах, повторював: запам'ятайте, зло довго тривати не може. Як Воскреслий Христос переміг царство смерті, так і Україна з Божою поміччю переможе імперію зла. Єднаємося з вами у молитві. Слава Україні!
Героям слава! Okay, I think then with that, we are going to conclude our program for today. We are keeping our brothers and sisters in Ukraine in our daily thoughts and prayers. I'm praying for a good outcome soon. Dr. Fett. Muted. Dr. Fett, you are muted.
Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you to Iryna and to wish all our viewers the great holidays, whatever they celebrate, and to remember Ukraine as they go to this holiday weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine, slava Ukraine.
Героям
Thank you
слава.
so much.
До наступного тижня. Прощаємося. Till next week. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.